Yay, we are live and recording. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. So to start the weekend off, we have some science fiction awesomeness in the house for you. And I'm excited because we have Robert Stadnik, who is in my center, pointing to the center right there. And he is going to be in conversation with Raz. And just to give you guys a little info, Robert is a science fiction writer, author of the Exodus Starship Adventure series and Exodus Universe novels. He travels extensively for work here in the US and internationally, which I am so jealous of. I also have the travel bug, so that's so cool you get to do that. And he gets to meet people from all walks of life. And Raz is an accomplished jack of all trades. He's an IT expert, recent law school graduate, father of 3 boys, and sci-fi enthusiast at heart. So he is very much in good company with Mysterious Galaxy. He's one of Robert's fans and has read all of the novels, so I am super excited to get to hear the questions that you have for him. I'm like, you're going to have great questions. And we are celebrating Infinite Retribution today, which I am very excited. Now, this is book 2, correct, in the series? Yes, it has a gorgeous, I love the new, the covers you have for these. They're just so freaking cool. But it is great space adventure and continuation from where the last book left off. But now that we have the formal introductions out of the way, as everyone knows, kind of our housekeeping rules, the Vanna White section is to the right-hand side. We have our chat section. I'll be hopping in there in just a second to say hey to everyone. If you look down below where it says ask a question, that is indeed where you can ask a question. So I would highly encourage you to ask Robert whatever questions you have to ask. That's the best part of events, is that you get to poke the author's brain. And then also, and most importantly, if you would like to support the author and the books and a local bookstore, Robert's books are going to be available at the purchase book button down below. And on that note, I am going to go ahead and pass it off to you, Roz, and I will see you at the end of the event. Have a good
one. So Robert, yeah, I was glad to be here and participating in this. So
same here, since you know my books better than anybody. So
yeah, well, because I've been fortunate enough to be able to read almost all of them. I've read the most current one. Excellent. Why don't you just give us an idea about how many books and they're mostly around the Exodus universe, right?
Yes.
So why don't you talk a little bit about the Exodus universe for us?
Yeah, and it's funny because I have all these unfinished manuscripts of other stories just sitting on my flash drive, and I keep getting dragged back into the Exodus universe. It's been 10 years since I published the first novel in that universe, Exodus of the Phoenix. And it wound up becoming a 5-book series on the adventures of the crew of the Starship Phoenix. And from there, I wound up got drawn back into that world I made, because I had a lot of secondary characters, because the Phoenix during the mission had over 5,000 people. And I just kind of started thinking about some of these secondary characters and how the adventures of the Phoenix affected, humanity and, after that first mission. And so then I wind up writing The Jump Gate. And then now most recently, I wrote Infinite Retribution to kind of expand upon some of those characters that were mentioned maybe briefly, or maybe not even at all, new characters I created who were part of the Phoenix crew or involved somehow around that mission, impacted by that. And I just really enjoying the fact that, for me, it's about humans' first steps into interstellar space. So I've been kind of writing these novels just to, talk about and to explore how their first steps into interstellar spaces is shaping up to be. Phoenix is out there, out in the galaxy, exploring space, but they're an outlier. It's like, what's really happened to military?
Yeah, so I don't want to. I got to be careful because I know so much about the books. I don't want to give anything away there. But in the Exodus universe, you started with the Exodus of the Phoenix, and your next books was Phoenix Among the Stars, and Phoenix in Chaos, and then Fury of the Phoenix, and then Fractured Alliance, and that's a sequential series. And then you did the Io Effect, which stands alone, right?
Yeah, and actually that one, it's about the Phoenix, but that takes place 100 years later, because more of the theme on that is legacy. What did the legacy of the first Phoenix crew, how does that impact in the future with the existing crew, and how it shaped the politics and the alliance between humanity and some of the alien races. So I wrote that one next, but then I was like, let's go back to the 22nd century.
Right, and you did the Infinite Retribution, and right now available via the purchase books button, right, is the Infinite Retribution, which is great because it stands on its own, right? And actually, you've got 3 books available, right? I mean, you got the Exodus of the Phoenix and the Infinite Retribution, right? So I'll put it up here.
Yes. And actually, because what was decided, because it's been 10 years since Exodus of the Phoenix came out, and the timing was perfect. It's been 10 years since that novel, and then coming out with Infinite Retribution, decided that, to celebrate these novels, I want to go ahead and decide to do a relaunch on them. So Exodus of the Phoenix relaunch with a brand new book cover, working with a great book designer to kind of come up with an overall artistic design for the book covers that's going to support Infinite Retribution. And so now, we're celebrating 10-year anniversary. So Exodus of the Phoenix is now out. And then in the next couple months, the remaining novels in the Exodus series will become available again with brand new book covers to celebrate the whole series.
And will there be any new content?
There won't be new content. I will say this. I have started another Exodus novel because I keep getting dragged back in. And it's going to be about the Starship Phoenix. And this one's going to take place 700 years later. So it's going to take place in the, I should say 800 years later from the 22nd century, but it's going to take place in the 30th century. And it will bring back 2 characters from the Exodus series, and that's all I'm going to say. So readers can kind of figure out, who could possibly be coming back in the 30th century, who was alive in the 22nd century. But I have that whole story in my head. So there will be another Exodus novel coming out at some point. And I can pretty say confidently that in terms of the Phoenix, that will most likely be the last novel about the Starship Phoenix, because I have too many other characters and stories in the Exodus universe. With Infinite Retribution, we got to explore the crew of the Starship Infinity, as well as supporting the crew of the Starship Solaris. And that crew, they were in the jump gate. So there's a lot of stories still to be told.
And I'm a little familiar with your writing process, so I know if the bug gets you, you're going to be you'll do another 10 if the bug gets you.
Yes.
And I was in a bookstore and I was talking to sci-fi, a guy in the sci-fi section, and he was talking about the different types of sci-fi book, the hard sci-fi, and then just the range. Now your books really focus on the characters, right?
Yeah, because I look at the technology and the future, and what's the future brings in terms of technology and, comforts of life, takes a back seat. These are about the characters. These are about the people in the novels that happen to be living on starships and interacting with aliens. And, you have military people, you have civilians, but it's really about the characters themselves. A lot of, the characters in the situation I write is an offshoot of what I experienced in my own life. So that, I think, is why it's really very character driven, is because I put so much of my own self into these novels. So I'm not so worried about, okay, if it's artificial intelligence or robots, things like that. Not very important in these novels. They're there and they're briefly discussed, but they're kind of more of a secondary supporting type of role. It's really about the individuals in these books that really drive these novels, I think.
Yeah, and what I like about the characters is they have depth to them, and they deal with some rather well, problems, and you see the moral dilemmas that they have, and the more realistic kind of what we see in current environment with, even the way we look at different groups and things like that, the struggle
Sure.
that these people have with alien races that we take for granted if we watch the general sci-fi stuff.
And that was a big shot. That was a big, I think, a driving force with Infinite Retribution was that I had gotten to the point. So the Exodus series themselves dealt with, the alien adversary, the Screen, the hostile alien race that kept humanity contained in the solar system for almost a century. So that series explored that mission and how that became the resolution of that. And after that, I was thinking that, okay, that doesn't mean that, they live happily ever after that mission, that everything's hunky-dory and that, we're going to have this great alliance of races now, and they're going to be collaborative working together to build, at least in the local area of space, make it very peaceful, helping each other out. I started thinking and I thought, they may have good intentions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's enough. And this novel really drives forth that there are problems here. There are underlying issues that, okay, humanity's part of this coalition of alien races that they cobbled together to fight the Screen. Now what? They know next to nothing about each other, and now they're supposed to work together. Sounds great on paper, but when you don't have a good understanding of the cultural nuances of other aliens, you're gonna probably run into some problems.
So what I'm going to do is we're getting some questions in, so I'm going to intermix the questions in with what we're talking about. And sure. One of the questions was, as we're talking about characters, was what secondary character was most challenging to write, and which one was the most fun?
I'm going to go with the most fun one first, and that's going to be Admiral Carla Vespia. She is probably the most despicable, unpleasant woman you'll ever meet, and I absolutely love her because she initially started off as a secondary character in the Exodus series, and she quickly developed into a main character. And lo and behold, she wound up in the Jumpgate novel, and then she wound up even more prominently into Infinite Retribution. And there's, she makes no apologies for her motivations. She has a goal. She sets her minds to it. She doesn't care who she throws underneath the bus or who she steps on.
She's very Machiavellian.
Very much so. And she's unapologetic for that because she feels that what she does is for the benefit for, number one, herself. Even though she's the head of the military, she's head of Terra. She's number one, and everything else is secondary. Certainly, she's going to do things for the benefit of the military, so long as it coincides with her goals for what's going to be the beneficial for herself. Probably the character I had the most difficult time with, I got to say, it's going to be Jacob Diego. He served on the Phoenix, but he was never mentioned in the Exodus series. It wasn't until after that series was concluded that I wanted to think about some of those crew members who chose to leave Phoenix after the mission was concluded, and there was very few of them. And Jacob came to mind, and this was a character who, in the Jumpgate novel, was very conflicted. He was punishing himself because he made a choice in his past, and it was a choice he had to live with. And we go now to Infinite Retribution, where now all of a sudden here's somebody who he still has to, live with decisions he made in the past, but all of a sudden now he's been put into this significant leadership role. He has an important role to play regarding the Starship Infinity and its first mission. And by the end of the novel, he's now put on this pedestal that he may not necessarily feel. And I think in future novels, I'm going to explore that more with him, that he doesn't necessarily feel that he deserves that, because he's still trying to find atonement for his past actions. Because in some ways he is kind of like Vespia. What he decisions he made in the past was for his benefit, and he justified in his mind, I was doing what was right, and as a result, some people suffered for it. But he's different in Vespia in that she's unapologetic for her actions, whereas he's very much has a lot of regrets. And it's been really tough with him to try to navigate. I don't want him to be a military officer that's so, he's crippling himself with the guilt of what he's done in the past, that he needs to be able to push forward. And that's kind of a difficult fine line to walk sometimes.
Yeah, and you deal with some, my mind went to the Caine Mutiny, with the, that when you have two different leadership groups within a vessel, and how do you resolve fundamental conflicts?
And that's the tough part about that, is that sometimes, because if both sides are so ingrained and convinced that their thought process, that what they want to do is the right thing, sometimes you can't get compromise in there, and that creates significant conflicts,
especially with strong leaders.
Yes, very much so. Because if they think they're absolutely right, especially when you're dealing with some of these individuals who have many years of experience serving in Terra. Now, put aside the fact that none of them, with some exceptions, we'll put Jacob aside, but let's say, with Annette and, her crew, none of them have ever flown out of the solar system at all. This is their first true mission, but she feels that she is completely qualified to command the Infinity because of her 20 plus of experience serving in the military. Even though it was primarily on one ship and it never went beyond Mars, she still feels like she's the most qualified individual to conduct interstellar exploration.
So one of the things is I want to make sure, because I know some people may not have read any of your books, and
Sure.
we're getting deep into some of the characters without necessarily the background to really enjoy where you're coming from and with what you're saying. One of the questions we have is, what scene or section brought you the most joy to write?
Ooh, I think when Admiral Vespia, I think that one, when she meets with the president, that was just a great scene, because I was even surprised right in that scene how Carla's reaction to the president's decision was, how she was going to react to that.
Yeah.
And I was like pleasantly surprised that how she took it. And it was just an absolute joy, because I finally, I described her as not a very good individual, but in that particular scene, she revealed something about herself that I wasn't aware of. I was like, okay, this is somebody who took me by surprise. I thought she'd be very aggressive in her reaction.
You're talking about Infinite Retribution and the conflict between the military and the civilian Earth government divisions, and that's a cool scene. You also, you've intimated to here, and I think I had not been aware of any other author who generally does this like you do, but it comes to you, right? You don't sit there with a formula. Oh yeah, they're going to meet. This is going to happen. It's very organic for you. You're writing it. It's being created as you're writing it, right?
Yeah, I with all my stories, which is probably why I have so many unfinished manuscripts, but a story pops in my head. I pretty much know from start to middle to finish what the story's about. The surprise and the enjoyment for me is when I'm getting it on paper and writing the specific scenes. That's where I get these surprises from. The story is still generally the same, but some of the situations, some of the character reactions, some of the things that they do catch me off guard sometimes. And I'm like, wow, I'm pleasantly surprised. Or sometimes, really, does this have to happen? I don't want this to happen, but my mind kind of operates on its own. I wish some things, like, in some of my past novels, some characters die, and some of these characters I absolutely love, and I wish they didn't have to they didn't have to die, but I can't control that. The story dictates that. My mind dictates that, and it serves a purpose for the story. That's part of life. You have, you grow, you have experience, and you have loss. That's all part of life, and my stories are a reflection of that.
So if I'm sitting down with you over lunch, you could be sitting there taking a bite of food and go, "Oh crap! Someone just died in the novel. I just realized it." Is that kind of organic?
Yeah. I've had I'll have brunch, lunch, dinner with friends. I'll even go out and have some cocktails, and then all of a sudden I just like, oh my gosh, this is what's going to happen now. And my friends are like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, no, it has to do with my book, my story I'm working on, blah, 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 and this. And they're looking at me like, whatever medication you're on, cut the dose.
It's interesting because, with advice for new authors, what would you give a new author who they're interested, they've got an idea, they're interested in writing about it. It's not you don't write the traditional way, right? You kind of can't follow a book's script. It's more organic. But what advice would you give?
Get it on paper. That's the number one thing I always tell people I meet who want to write a book. Just get it on paper. It took me to write Exodus of the Phoenix. That was my first novel. It took me 5 years to write that novel. Why? Because I had a lot of self-doubt. I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. No one's going to be interested in the story. There's too many writers out there. You come up with a lot of roadblocks that you can put onto yourself. And I went through that. And I think a lot of aspiring writers out there, they go through the same thing. And you just have to push back past that. You have a story to tell. So tell the story. Just get it on paper. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about sentence structure. Don't worry about any of that stuff. I mean, if you need to write in shorthand, but just get it on paper, because then when you go back and you do the revisions, then you can make those corrections, you can make those alterations, and especially with the revisions too. I've gone back and I've changed components of a story because, my mind's always working, it's organic, and I've changed situations on the story sometimes that I wouldn't necessarily have done so if I just went with the first draft. So that's always my advice to a writer. Just get down on paper. So
the Exodus series and the Exodus universe, because you've got those 5 books and you got the 2 others or 3 others and who knows how many more, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the only genre, right? I mean, you've got tales of the superheroes, former superheroes.
Yep. Yeah. And that one actually, so that one, a little segue on here. So Tales of a Former Child Superhero, those characters. Those are the first characters I ever created when I was a kid. I still remember to this day, I was in 7th grade. At that time, I wasn't writing, I was drawing, and I'm a horrible drawer. Like, I can't even draw stick figures. I'm just a horrible drawer, but that's how I created those characters. I'd be sitting there bored in class and be drawing these characters. And I did that for a good couple of years, forgot about them when I went to high school. And then all of a sudden, one day, many years ago, I just started thinking about them. And this is after I wrote Exodus of the Phoenix. And I said, I forgot about these kids. It's 20 plus years later. They're adults. What happened to them?
Let me give some background to the viewers. These are a set of kids who are given superpowers by aliens. And then it's their story later in life where they're not supposed to use their superpowers because the aliens have prohibited them from, and there's some intrigue. There's a government agency after them, and it's a different story from the Exodus, which is the Earth is our expansion into space, colonization of space is inhibited by hostile alien race, we break through that, and then we, all the interactions and everything that go with that. It's like two different genre almost.
Yeah, I mean, for me, all my books are very personal for me because there's stuff in my personal life dotted throughout all my novels. But definitely with Tales, because those are my first characters and I love them a lot. And I just love writing that story. I've been sitting on the sequel to that novel for 8 years. And I'm kind of resigned that I will never finish that book, because if I wrote that book, I'm saying goodbye to those characters. And they've been with me since I was a kid. I'm not willing to say goodbye to them. So it may be a case where I can never finish that book. We'll have to see.
You can. I'm pining for another in that series, and I'm hoping it'll be a series. I know you've mentioned it other times that you're going to do one more and complete that series, but that's that's a cool universe in of itself.
Yeah, and I'm really and now I think part of the reason why I keep coming back to the Exodus universe is that I get to explore humanity's first attempts to explore space, meet other alien races. I have a story in my head. One of the main characters in the Exodus series, Chris Ann, the most celebrated singer of the 22nd century. Yeah. He served as the morale officer on the Phoenix.
That's avant-garde. I haven't seen a drag queen in other sci-fi that I've read.
But he's going to be I have a story for him. He's actually, he's moved on. I'm glad to say that he does make an appearance in Infinite Retribution. But I have a story for him. He's going to find out some things that are going to be a surprise for him. And for a drag queen performer to go on this adventure that he's going to go on, and he's going to realize that, wow, I'm a lot stronger than I realized I was. I have to kind of be the leader now of this alien race, the Sempho. They're part of the Alien Alliance, and he's going to go on an adventure with some of them, and he's going to find out some things that he never expected. And it's going to be some unpleasant things that come up, but that's part of the first steps of exploring.
So there's another book on the back burner there.
Yeah, another one. See, they just keep coming in my head. I'll probably be writing. Hopefully, I'll be able to write some other genres. Get back to Tales, and maybe I have a fantasy novel in my head. I have a vampire story in my head that I want to write. But I think
don't you also have a spy novel in your head too?
Oh yeah, the spy novel I'm working on right now too, along with the new Exodus novel. So I will probably always be writing Exodus universe novels, because I'm really enjoying being able to branch out and explore some of these new characters, new ships, maybe not even a ship, space station, planetary outposts. I mean, I have all these ideas in my head, and I think it's going to be something I'll probably be writing with for years and years and years. And hopefully I can get some other novels in between those too while I'm at it.
busy person there.
Yes, try to stay very busy.
I love the characters and how it revolves. The story is really about the characters.
Yeah.
And so you've got these aliens, right? And you give like high level descriptions of them. You leave it to the reader with their imagination. How do you come up with these aliens and how and their characteristics? Both because you cover not only the physical characteristics, you cover the cultural characteristics.
Yeah, and I think with the Exodus series, I was able to get away with not really having a very detailed description about these the aliens in the Alliance, the Sempho, the Onyxans, the Q, the Cresorians, the Aldarians. I didn't really have to explore their each of their cultural nuances, because in the Exodus series it wasn't important. They were forced to come together to fight a common enemy, so I didn't have to explore their cultural nuances. I did a little bit with the Aldarians, but for the others, not too much. In Infinite Retribution, Absolutely. And it was the Onyxians. They have a cultural nuance. They have protocol in the military, and it is completely incompatible when you have gray area situations that wind up coming up in Infinite Retribution. How does this Onyxian, who's serving on the military cultural exchange, how he's supposed to handle that? Because his
deal with those gray areas.
Yeah. I find out with the Onyxians, they really can't.
Yeah.
So how are they?
That was really interesting, the conflict between the two cultures and military cultures at that.
Yeah. So the question is now, and that's something in future Exodus universe novels that I'm going to explore. So how do such two fundamentally different military cultures, Terra for humanity and the Onyxian military, how can they move forward and work together? I don't know right now. That's a big unknown because it became a significant issue in my latest book, and I'm not sure how it's going to play out at this moment. But it's a challenge. It's one of many challenges for humanity to face, for the Alliance to face.
Now, with Infinite Retribution, it stands on its own, and it also stands on its own with the things that it's grappling with. There were some of the same things in your Exodus of the Phoenix novel. But the Exodus of the Phoenix novel is almost a different set of conflicts and growth of the characters than Infinite Retribution. So Infinite Retribution, it's out now, right? They could also get Exodus of the Phoenix. I guess people will be wondering, well, that's part of a 5-book series,
Yes.
When will book 2 come out?
So I'm hoping Phoenix Among the Stars will relaunch in the next few weeks. And then the goal is then with the remaining novels in the Exodus series that they will be coming out about on a monthly basis. So certainly before the end of the year is out, all the novels in the Exodus series will become available again for purchase. Again, brand new book covers. We're changing direction with the art cover style. And part of the reason I did that was because every time I look at science fiction book covers, and they're covers that are very realistic and detailed. Yes. So I went with a different direction with the book cover designer, because whenever I look at a realistic book cover, realistic science fiction book cover that looks very real and detailed and beautiful, I get a sense of dystopianism to it, and that yes, we've reached this great technology and everything, but as some sort of cost to society, and I just don't like that sort of feeling. So I kind of almost went back to what the book designer, hey, let's kind of make it a little bit more simple. Let's use, let's not be very detailed on the colors and stuff. Just kind of make it very, simple overall in its imagery and stuff. Because the readers, as they read these novels and stuff, they use their own imaginations to kind of carry them forward too on some of the descriptions and how the book covers look as well.
And I love that, because then you get caught up with the characters and not the deep science fiction descriptions you may get in the Star Wars one of the Star Wars books, right? Which is wonderful. So these people come to life. You say you get a lot of inspiration from people you meet.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that people I met in my lives, friends, family, acquaintances, people as I travel, they help fuel my imagination. Some of them become, almost a replica of characters in the story. Some become an amalgam of different characters in my stories, or help create the alien races, or even the, cultural nuances and things. So a big part of why I think I'm so prolific in my writing is because of my travels. I've had the fortune to go to Europe 3 times. I've been up to Canada a couple times, been down to Mexico. I've traveled a lot of different places, and that is the singular reason why I think my imagination is the way it is, because my mind has been opened up to what our world has to offer, to what our different countries and cultures have to offer us. And I think for me, it's been a great experience and great opportunity. And, I'm hoping that, now that we're getting back to normal on some things, that I'll be able to start traveling to the level I once did before, because that really helps me a lot with my writing. And I come up with stuff I would never even consider before.
So one of the lead characters in Exodus of the Phoenix and in that series, the main character would be Captain John Roberts. Now, Roberts your name, Roberts the thing. How much of that character's of you is in that character? Is it an amalgam?
There's definitely John Roberts as a big part of him is my personality. I've always been told I have kind of a quirky sense of humor. I can shoot off the cuff just like that, with my sense of humor. And certainly John Roberts is that. We start off with him as being this arrogant, egotistical cadet who knows he's the smartest person at Terror Academy, and he knows that he's better than everybody else, and he snubs his nose at authority because of his ego, and he doesn't have oppositional.
The term oppositional behavior comes, brilliant but oppositional, authority.
And then you have his roommate, Julie Olson, who is by the book, very academic, excels at, she works hard, but she, demonstrates she excels at everything she does.
Strong female character, and also very much a primary character.
Yeah, so I liked Exodus of the Phoenix because you have these two cadets who are polar opposites. They can't stand each other. Julie wished that he get expelled from the academy, and John's probably thought of 600 ways to kill Julie. I mean, that's how much they love each other. And now they're being thrown together to not only be a part of the Exodus project, but to lead and command this massive starship that can hold up to 50,000 people. And the admiral who's heading the project says they're the only two who can command it because no other officer will take that mission.
And isn't it great? Adversity brings different people together, and then a common goal has them, help each other grow.
And with that, with those characters, Exodus of the Phoenix, really explores how are these two individuals supposed to work together? How are they supposed to free humanity from their oppressors? I mean, it almost seems insurmountable. And for both of them, they don't think they can do it. They don't think they have the they have the wherewithal or to be able to find any sort of common ground to be able to work together.
Do you have a Julie in your life or those kind of characters? I mean, it was what 2000. It was a while ago, right? 10 years ago.
2010 when I wrote that book. I don't know, because my life was so different back then. I mean, I don't know. I can't offhand. Yeah, that's a good question. Where did Julie Olson come from? Probably just a bunch of people I met, maybe because I was working in the corporate world at that time. And, sometimes you deal with, you butt heads with individuals in the corporate world. Maybe that's how she.
How about Admiral Vespa in the most recent?
Oh, Vespia. Yeah. I think Admiral Vespia, in a lot of respects, is a character I think a lot of people wish they could be and get away with it, but they can't because, number one, they have morals, they have morality, and Vespia doesn't necessarily have any of those. She does have, there is a soft spot to her, but it's very deep within her. I mean, and I can't give things away about her because, there's some things that happen in her life, within her career, with her own family that definitely, because of what happened, drives her to be the person that she is now. Because for her, career is everything.
And you get some of that insight in the first 5 books.
Yeah.
Right? And so by the time Infinite Retribution comes around, it stands on its own, but the substance of the characters is great when you got the whole thing. So characters are people in your lives. What about other research that you might do?
I haven't really done much research at all with these science fiction novels. I always joke that that's the nice thing about writing fiction. It doesn't matter if it's fantasy, regular fiction, science fiction. You can make up whatever the heck you want. If I want to put pink elephants on every star in the galaxy, my world, my universe, I can do that and stuff. Really,
I look
the
forward to
only
reading that book.
yeah, no, I wouldn't. That'd be kind of one of my free writing sort of things. But no, really, the only research I've done has been the names of local stars in our local sector of space. I did some research on that for the Exodus series, but that's about it. Other things like how the ships move faster than light. I made that up. I came up with the Dubois particles and that how it hyper energizes the ships to thrust them through faster than light travel. Of course, you had the whole time dilation effect because of Einstein's theory of relativity. I just ignored that. It's like
As we
it's not
understand
important
it
enough.
today, right?
As we understand today, it's a
right?
theory, so right. But for my books, it's like we're just going to ignore time dilation because I don't want to get too needy. Again, we're not hard science fiction here, so I'm playing fast and loose with some of the rules of laws of physics and everything like that. But writers who write fiction, they're allowed to do that, so it's okay.
Yeah. What's your favorite alien race?
My favorite alien race.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I gotta say it's gotta be the Sempho. I just absolutely love the Sempho.
So give the audience just a brief description of what a Sempho is.
They're about 3 foot tall, 3 feet in height. They're grayish in color, 3-digit hands, and culturally they have to wear a hat because it's part of their cultural nuance. And it's analogous. It looks like a fez. So they wear these little hats, and they always have to wear them because it's part of their culture. They always have to be wearing their hat. But if you visit their home world, it's completely. You don't expect what their home world looks like because you go to their home world, and all their buildings and everything are designed and built for individuals who are 6, 7, 8 feet tall. So it's kind of an oddity. It's like, why do you have these 3 foot tall aliens who have these ginormous structures and doors that they don't need? But for whatever reason, that's part of their culture. That's just how their architecture is set up.
That's wonderful. Now they almost were almost made extinct by the screen, and that's kind of one of the themes. Is that they were hostile. The screen were hostile to Earth in restricting its travel outside the solar system, but they were quite destructive to other alien races, right?
Yeah, that was the thing with the screen is that they inhibited the other alien races, the Aldarians, the Onyxans, the Sempho, Gressorians, in unique ways to prevent them from traveling through space. Now with humans kind of did the job for them because humanity got quickly scared that, okay, any ship we send beyond Mars orbital boundaries is being destroyed. Oh, we're just not going to send ships to the outer solar system anymore. Problem solved. So for the screen, it's like, wow, we didn't have to do much. The human race kind of took care of that for us. So they self-contained themselves and we don't have to worry about them anymore. So humanity, out of all the races, I would say, got off scot-free when it comes to the screen. They didn't have anywhere near the loss of life as some of the other races suffered.
So I will tell you, the creepiest of the aliens you've come up with, in my mind, is the Io. So
yes,
yeah. So what's your creepiest or least favorite?
It used to be the Io, but now it's the Jokobi. And the Jokobi made a brief appearance in the Jump Gate, and they were going to be coming back in the new Exodus novel. The Jokobi scared the hell out of me.
Okay, what does describe a Jokobi?
Well, that's the thing with the Jokobi, you can't.
Oh.
If you look at each Jokobi, they're completely different. There's no two Jokobi that look alike. They are completely different because they are so invested in genetic manipulations that's part of their culture. As soon as the Jokobi is born, their genes are automatically modified and changed, and they change their genes throughout their lifespan. So you can't say that a Jokobi has a lot of hair and maybe orange in skin tone. That may be one, but then you have another Jokobi that may be, 16 foot tall and has 17 legs and 16 arms and 27, eyes, with half of them looking like insects and the other ones looking like, like bluish balls or something like that. That's the scary thing about the Jokobi. You just don't know. They don't look alike, and you don't know what each one's capability is. And their whole thing is that they want other races to service them. And the Jokobi was the race actually that the screen escaped from.
So describe the IO. And I think the audience will understand why I think it's creepy.
Because the IO are basically cybernetic creatures. What they do is they basically have humanoid organic bodies, and then they have computer modules for heads. So when they capture somebody, they chop off their head, transfer their consciousness into a IO computer module, and then put that computer module where the head used to be.
And under the theme of they're helping the person.
Yeah, because they're opening them to enlightenment. That the IO is we are an enlightened species. What we do is for the betterment of for others, and therefore we're bestowing our gift onto others by giving you a computer module, and now your consciousness resides in that. And actually, when I wrote the first scene ever about the IO, I was literally scared. When I wrote that whole scene, their first encounter, they're a scary race.
I couldn't go there. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no.
But the Jokobi has topped them now. The Jokobi is definitely now even more frightening than the IO ever was.
Now your characters, they have depth to them, and it's not all heavy topics. I mean, there's joking that goes back and forth, in dialogue. What's your favorite dialogue between two? You said that outside of Vespia and the president. Just standard, or some of the other characters.
Well, some of the other characters, I will definitely say, when in the Exodus series, when John Roberts first meets Chris-Anne, and that first interaction, just hilarious, made me laugh, because John's walking the situation thinking that, is Chris-Anne hitting on me? Is this some sort of, is this a date and I don't know it and stuff? And it's just hilarious because Chris-Anne realizes that, is that what you're thinking, John? You're not. No, that's not what it is whatsoever. I just laughed when I had that interaction with them. My other favorite one, and it has to do with encountering new alien races. Again, John's first foray into meeting other aliens, and they meet this a facilitator of a alien space station, a trading outpost, and this alien, I forgot what his species was, but basically he has kind of an octopus type head.
I remember that was
yeah. And John's reaction when the alien his greeting for hello is to spew all this phlegm out of its mouth on the John, and then John kind of goes.
We should get too into it because we're giving away.
Yeah, no, but that was. But John's reaction to that was just hilarious, and people are just looking at. I mean, even the
aftermath too.
The aftermath. The doctor's like, "Is he right in the head?" I mean, that was just odd how he reacted to the alien and stuff. So, oh yeah, there's been many situations with characters that I just absolutely enjoyed.
I like the interaction between Admiral Vespia and the other admiral on the council.
Oh, Michael, yes. Michael Forsyth, yes.
And that one, back and forth.
Yeah, and even that one, I didn't expect how that was going to play out. When I wrote that scene with the revelation, I was just about, Michael and Carla, I was just like, whoa, where did this come from? But it's like, all right, I guess it makes sense. So we'll go with it and stuff, because they've been adverse, at each other's throat essentially the whole time. Michael tries to find any way to undercut Carla, because in a lot of respects he's like her. He wants the top post. It's not enough for him to be on the council. He wants to be head of the council, and he will do whatever he can to topple her from that.
So I understand new CDC guidelines on masks. It sounds like things are opening up. what are you looking forward to in the next year as far as going out and seeing the fans and stuff?
I really want to get to, I want to go to, it's like I'm pent up. After a year, I've loved to travel. The hardest thing for me with this COVID situation was having to stay home. I'm not that type of person. I always like to be out and about. So for me, my goal for myself is I want to hit as many conventions as possible, science fiction, Comic-Con conventions, you name it. I just want to be able to go out there and, meet all these different people. And actually, I want to be able to meet, fans, people who enjoy my work. I want to be able to interact with them and, find out from them, what do you love about my stories? What do you like about some of my characters? Maybe some of the things you don't like about some of my characters or stories. I want to have that interaction with people who read my novels because I would just get a lot of great enjoyment out of that, especially being able to meet fans from different walks of life, from professionals to maybe artists to students, things like that. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
I've got to laugh a little because it's not like they can influence what you write if you can't even influence what you write.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. My
is.
mind operates on its own. So, yeah, I mean, but still being able to hear what they have to say, I would like to hear that. It'd be great.
Well, I have to second and third and fourth and fifth to the infinite degree of looking forward to having events and getting to actually see people interacting with authors because it's such a special thing and I miss it so much. But did you have any additional questions, Raz, before I felt that the end was coming for the event?
Yeah, no, I think we covered a lot, No, I had no more questions. I think we covered it all.
Well, awesome. It was such a pleasure getting to hear both of you speak, especially because, Raz, you know so much about Robert's worlds, and this was just so much fun to get to hear more about the books. It's really exciting, too. The new covers are really, really cool. I love the new covers, and definitely like how you were saying, they have more of like a less post-apocalyptic, more lighthearted, for lack of a better word, feel to them. I think you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But so if you are looking for a good sci-fi romp, then these books are totally, totally perfect for you as we got to hear lots of great world building. I have a selfish question I would like to take the time to ask. Where did the inspiration for the 09 come into? Because at first I was like, this reminds me somewhat of how religious people went and conquered lands. But I was like, what was the impetus for people who go and cut your head off and turn you into a robot?
It just popped in my head. They're on a planet, I'm writing a scene, and I create the IO. I don't know where they came from or anything. I don't know how it popped in my head. I explore more, obviously, because I wrote the IO effect. So obviously they're the prominent villains in that novel, but it's just one of those inexplicable things that my mind came up with.
It's almost like schizophrenic writing in a way. It's like another split personality.
It's just proof that the nicest writers that you meet, who are the most friendliest and seem happy, have the most diabolical thoughts.
There's maybe something to that.
I think it's just proof of that. But as we start to wrap up, since you have a lot going on, since these books are being republished with the new covers, and you've obviously got lots of other story ideas as well as new stories coming out, where is a place where people can find you either on social media, newsletter? What is the best way for people to stay up to date on what you've got going on?
So my books, of course, are all available either by ebook or by paperback copy. Amazon, easiest place to go to find them. I have my own website, robertstadnik.com. I also have a blog at Goodreads.
I gotta represent for the indies. Don't shop Amazon. Shop indie people.
Go for the indies, absolutely. Go for the indie books, absolutely. But you can also find me on. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, and I do have a Facebook page as well. So just type my name into Google, and all my stuff will come up.
Awesome. Perfect.
So indie books, are their URL?
For indie bookstores?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So if you follow the purchase book button down below, clever man. If you follow the purchase book button down below, it will take you where you can purchase Robert's books. And oh, that was so nice. Someone got to prompt me to say that. Normally, I always have to prompt me during the plug. But seriously, go and check out these books. They're so much fun. They're just great science fiction. And on that note, I want to give a huge, huge thank you to everyone for attending, for questions, Raz for being an awesome interviewer, and Robert for writing amazing books and keeping them coming. So
Thank
we
you.
will see. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. We will see everyone next time, and have a good rest of your Friday and a happy weekend, everyone. Goodbye.
Yes.
Bye.
Take care.